we're back on Morning Barbados. Welcome to those of you who may be joining us late. It's time now for us to talk real estate. And this morning, when Sharita Odell joins us, we'll be talking about what to do if you inherit a house. Good morning to you, Sharita.
Hi, good morning, Wendy.
Now, it's not that often that, things might be willed to you or just given to you as a wedding gift, however it comes for whatever reason. But we now find ourselves in possession of a home we didn't have before. What's the first thing to do?
Well, make sure you keep the home alive at least while the process of it being transferred to whomever is going on. As you know, with the passing of loved ones, sometimes you have the probate process, which can take quite a while. You don't want the house to deteriorate during that time. So it's important to at least quickly try to find out if any insurance is owed on it, property taxes, um, keep the utilities going, because remember, if electricity is off for more than 6 months and that house isn't up to code, you may have to rewire it. And those are the types of things initially that you want to ensure you do, just to keep the house still breathing and going while any legal process has to take place.
Okay, once that legal process is over and it's now lock, stock, and barrel mine, as we would say, um, how do I determine what I'm going to do with it? Whether I want to live in it, let another family member live in it, or rent it out, or perhaps subdivide it and do it as rooms. How do I get to that final decision?
Well, before you get there, first of all, you want to make sure that legally you have papers stating it's yours. Letters of administration, in combination with a will, etc. Whatever it takes legally to state that it's yours, you may realize that it's yours along with siblings, etc. So this is where you have to come together, and unfortunately, there's often a lot of not coming together at this time. But you want to make sure, even before you decide what are we going to do with it, that everything is still in order. So remember, I spoke briefly about insurance. You need to go now to that insurance company and find out how easy might it be to transfer insurance into my name during the period of downtime. Could I have done something to ensure that it was still covered? Because you don't want that the house uh, got blown up during the probate period and no one gets anything. So make sure from the very beginning you have a discussion with the insurance company in terms of names, transferring it, or if you have to start fresh. And also make sure in terms of the mortgage, what do we do? Is there a major balance? That will kind of dictate how you go forward. Because if you realize there are loads of arrears, you might not want to take this on as your burden and therefore may have to make a decision with your siblings or you alone in terms of, shall we dispose of it to ensure that the financial institution is covered? Should we refinance a mortgage, keeping in mind that this may then incur higher mortgage payments for you? So those are the things that you think of at onset.
But what if there are absolutely no encumbrances on the property?
Good. Well, you have three personal decisions to make. Do you want to move in? And in thinking about that, look at the capacity to repay any bills. You see, oftentimes I've seen persons inheriting large properties and they remember all the sentimental charm to it and they want to move into daddy's house, not realizing that it costs probably $1 million a year to upkeep daddy's 1 acre lawn, and the termite treatment that alone is $3,000 because the house is so big. The tiles are about to be blown, so you have to replace those. Count the cost. Is it worth it to move in besides feeling that fuzzy wuzzy emotional feeling? Secondly, going back to if there's a large set of arrears and debt tied to the property, do you want to continue claiming that as yours? Or is it time, sadly, to dispose of the property where the proceeds of the sale can hopefully then help to cover any costs? Right? So you have the move-in option, the selling it option, and if things are not too bad, you might decide maybe we should rent it out. But even in terms of renting it out, you still have to make sure that that house is up to scratch for rental purposes. You can't expect to inherit a almost derelict house and talk about I'm renting it. You still have to inject money to ensure that it's in order.
Okay, you want to make sure that it is up to code. Now, once the decision has been made, rent, sell, and especially if it's among siblings, should we draw up set agreements with our siblings to say, this is how the portion of the rent will be divided, this is how we will share the insurance costs? Should we do that?
You better had. You often find with siblings that when the parents were alive, sometimes it was, Mummy Joyce that was actually helping to keep Ruben, June, and Steve together. And now that Mummy Joyce is gone, all hell breaks loose. Yes. Um, and you would know at sibling level how tight you are or not. If you're not tight, you march your butt down to that attorney's office and you get something sealed, signed, and delivered. If, however, you have an amicable relationship, still put something on paper that all three of you have the opportunity to sign, saying these are our obligations. The written word is always better and more binding than anything coming out of your mouth.
And it will hold up in the court of law should we need to dispose of the property if all does not work out. So,
Correct.
that's what you do if you need to inherit, if you do inherit a house. Before we go, any other thing that we should be on the lookout for in terms of inheriting?
I would always recommend to clients, I see it a lot of the time, they often want to do right by the person who is deceased. And sometimes their idea of doing right has them bound to debt and emotional draining and fatigue for years. Because daddy put his blood, sweat, and tears into acquiring this 6 acres of land with this house, I don't want to sell it. But yeah, I can't rent it because I can't afford to fix it up. And I don't want to live in it because I have my own family and life elsewhere. And that helps to explain the number of derelict properties that we see around the island.
Okay.
Oftentimes, the result of family disputes, oftentimes, the result of not wanting to offend mommy, so I can just left it there, and it's sad. So I would say once you have grieved properly and got over the emotional hurdle of the passing of a loved one, sit down and think rationally about what is going to give you, the living person, peace, sanity, wholeness for years to come.
Okay, I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning, Sharita Odell, our real estate agent. You can find her on IG at Agent Sharita. She's also on Facebook at Barbados Real Estate 246. Sharita, have a pleasant Tuesday.
You too.